Another interesting finding. We went to what we think is one of the best providers or captives in the country. We looked at the data that was coming out of this tool, and in the eyes of their customer, they were outstanding on a process of rules-based decisioning, on this rules-based decisioning set of processes. They were better in cost, they were better in quality, they had understandably much superior practices. And we were very happy. We were thinking we were going back to this provider with a very good story. Unfortunately, when we looked at basic data entry, arguably a much simpler version of the process, what we found was this particular company, with the same, arguably even with the similar customers, was performing disastrously. We couldn't understand why this was the case. And we actually went back to this company saying, we don't understand the data, but this is what the data is telling us. They said, actually, we don't understand it either, but you're right, because the customers are telling us this. Right? We went in and we thought about it, and what we found is that typically what has occurred in a relatively immature industry like BPO is that the processes or the practices of the predominant group, in this case data rules-based decisioning, is taken and blindly applied to all the skill sets. In other words, this company was hiring from the same campus, paying the same amount, hiring overskilled people. Two people go into the same company. If Ram and I are hired from campus, Ram is clearly much smarter than I am. He gets into rules-based decisioning, I get into data entry. How do you think I feel? And this company was surprised that they had a 65% attrition on the less than 120 days. Put simply, what we have done is we have taken the processes from our predominant group and applied it across the board, and it doesn't work. The variability is the same on the IT side. What all we've talked about on the BPO side is exactly replicated on the IT side. I don't want to take you through that detail. IT is clearly more mature. But what I'd like to do is to hand it over to Vivek now to talk about the impact of what this is having on our businesses.
Thanks, Noshir. I think we talked about that side. We talked about that most outcomes that achieved. So where did we get it? What is wrong? What's going on in the industry? What we found, although with a very small sample set, I can't this year, it's about the sample set in excess of 50 to 60 companies. What we found is that companies with newer practices have higher costs and poorer margins. Take a simple example. When a project goes off track, right, and they do every 1 in 4 or 5 times, right, you find those companies solve it by throwing more people at it. In fact, they do solve it by throwing more experienced people at it, in IT in particular. Those are your most expensive resources, those are your most scarce resources. And by the way, your customer actually has a clear indication that practice, that how the way we solve crisis situations by throwing more people. Companies and practices result in that activity absolutely have lower margins. We've gone into a situation where we've gone from sort of a skill-based game where scale becomes very important. In fact, we're very one of them is that scale. However, that scale is quickly turning on us. We talk about managing a workforce of 20, 30, 40, in some cases 18,000 employees. The friction cost of managing that kind of workforce without institutionalized practices is in fact putting pressure on the margins. Likewise, in BPO, I think and I should say in IT services in particular, what we're seeing is the difference between average company practices and best-in-class practices of 3 to 6% points in the 3 to 6 points in the I might add that the difference between lagging companies and best-in-class performance is close to 10 points in the and all scale factors out of the equation, 10 points in the for the industry. Likewise, with BPO, what we found is not only the SLA compliance factor, we're talking about 20 to 30% innovation costs. Now, we of course have the benefit of looking inside the numbers companies in the field, but we look at their margin structure, their productivity, so on and so forth. And I can tell you, we have 2 companies where customers with people satisfaction scores, they will achieve similar outcomes, whose customers will continue to work with them. However, one company's margins will continue to grow, while the other company's margins are actually improving. Stable to why I think the industry, and in particular, the time to take stock decisions today, time to take stock decisions now. You better match a few points of the West Industrial market cap, over time. So a broad analysis in the room, understanding how good these companies are practices, very, very how you assess, if you will, the growth of the capacity of these companies, tracking the margin production institutions. With that, let me hand it over to.
I think the big point we want to make is that this is not a call to action resulting of a set of issues. Our performance is very good, as evidenced by the customer satisfaction that we have seen. Undoubtedly the highest I have ever seen across any industry. Right? The health is actually being sacrificed by us in an effort to keep that customer satisfaction where it is. Right? The call to action is that as a market leader, as a country with 50 plus percentage points of the global offshore market across ITO, BPO, market share which is rising, the call to action is that as the market leader, if we want to maintain India's preeminence, it is up to us to raise the bar on ourselves. And that, the value of that for ourselves, as Vivek said, is enormous. The value to maintaining India's leadership as the natural country advantages diminish is not to be even estimated. With that, we will end this part of the presentation, and what I'd like to do is now invite comments. We've got in front of us a pretty eminent panel, a panel we know hopefully will not agree with us on everything, because it's good to spark a debate and discussion. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to hand it over one by one to each of the panelists and get their comments, and then we will turn over to you for question and answers. So Ram, would you like to get started with a point of view, a disagreement, a debate, and outcome?